Serious medicine or poison? Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is by Rahkee off ETHEREUM. When this happened, 2006, the drug used was DOI at a dose of 1 hit. The route of administration was sublingual through a bladder. Gender, male. Weight, 160 pounds. Prior experience, he doesn't mention anything, but he does seem to be fairly experienced with tripping, and the setting was at his house and outside sometimes. So this is officially our first pure DOI experience, and quite a bit does happen. Definitely a lot of thoughts with this one, and I'll just let the report speak for itself. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. This research chemical was acquired relatively cheaply and saved until a special Sunday. The story goes like this. Saturday night, alarm set for 6 a.m. Sunday. Sunday, 6 a.m. Consume water, return to sleep. Sunday, 9 a.m. Awake. Very definite psychedelia present. Much writing, thinking about cosmic foundation of reality stuff. Sunday, 10 a.m. Eat some yogurt, drink orange juice. Not hungry, but yet hungry. The drug has what feels to me to be a heavy body load. Is this the amphetamine push? Jaw clench, muscles tense and shaky, joints feel swollen and painful. The power of the drug keeps on coming. Sunday, 11 a.m. Housemates leave for scheduled stuff. Wait, I do. Much thinking and turmoil. Sunday, 12 p.m. Housemates return and start cooking Asian food. I watch and try to communicate. Things are better. Sunday, 1 p.m. A good friend calls to say that her lover got arrested last night and thrown in prison, and she doesn't know where he is. Bad vibes. I can't do anything to help her. Synchronicity? Sunday, 2 p.m. Housemates get in stupid argument. I try to mediate. Can a heavily tripping man mediate two angry people? I guess so, because things work out in a while. Feel emotionally bruised. The sensitivity and ungrounding feeling the drug induces is not so helpful for some things. More synchronicity. Sunday, 4 p.m. Go walking with housemate in the woods. Much talking, much emotion. Much buried fears come out. Is it good? Is it bad? Will I die young from AIDS? Dirty things, fears are. We resolve to do our best and always be there for each other. I realize that my friend feels just as ungrounded emotionally while not on drugs as I feel on them. I feel like I can see the future, and I tell him he will become a Zen master one day. He is undergoing deep thinking about his relationships and facing hard decisions too. More synchronicity. Sunday, 5 p.m. Return home. Housemates leave for dinner out. Left to myself, face my dukkha. This is where things really start to get crazy. I feel borderline psychotic. I understand suffering. I feel the earth telling me her pain. I cry for the earth and the sky and the silly little men that strut about, pretending they are important and valuable because they can kill anything that disagrees with them. I cry for the native peoples of the world and lost habitats, and most of all, for the suffering, aching, hungry soul of the conqueror, for he is the most pathetic of all. A slave to his own pride, fear, and ambition. I feel myself taking on the burden of the oppressor. My heritage as a white male is that of the oppressor, and I feel all the silent, unappreciated suffering of those who chose to bear the white man's burden, to forcibly civilize everybody different, to sell them opium and alcohol and cigarettes and expensive clothes and prepackaged bromides to make them weak and forget their own dreams and take up their places on our own slave ship, rushing ever faster towards the edge of the abyss. I feel the hunger and shame and sadness of it all. My heart bleeds. I wrote, upon our shoulders empires were built. Upon our backs our ambitions crumbled. Upon the naked breast of our women and children fell the harsh lash of our will. We are men of the world. And I wrote, man the destroyer, the conqueror, listen, did you know they fear you? Yes, but more than that, they pity you. Can you stand to know it? At this point, I think it's fair to say that the trip was roaring along at a +4. life-changing experience, but it got even stronger. Recently, I have been facing a great many fears of mine in order to grow spiritually. This is a time of growth and change not only for me, but also for most of my friends. Synchronicity. This all came to a head. I felt myself nailed to a cross alongside Jesus, suffering with him for all sentient beings. I experienced Christ's love from his point of view. It was a wordless experience. After a moment to absorb that, the focus then shifted back to me. I felt myself in the court of God's judgment. The eyes of all living beings focused on me. This was it. No waiting for death. It was happening now. All myself was laid bare, and for a moment I felt the sword of judgment hovering over me, and the verdict was pronounced. Yes, God saw me through and through for all that I was, and his judgment was yes. Then he told me why. He said, actually, it just came into my mind, that no being is complete in itself. This kind of perfection is something that only God, who makes up all things, can be. My imperfections and illusions were part of me, and he loved those too. This is what is meant by divine grace, by knowing my imperfection and weakness, loving truth above all lies, and seeking God's judgment in spite of my fear. I had allowed God's light to shine from my soul. Basically, God said that anyone who knew their incompleteness and still seek to approach him are worthy. This act of faith in God's mercy is what saves us. God also implied that the terrible, fearful, damning aspect of his judgment is what is perceived by those who flee from it and take refuge in lies and self-deception. In this way, his light of judgment is the light of discernment. Like Buddhist guardian deities, it appears terrifying to those who hate or fear the truth, but manifests as love and acceptance to those who can love it. Heaven and hell are not two different places. They are two different attitudes towards the same unstoppable force of God energy. I do not call myself Christian, but lately I find myself using these words because they seem to work well for the concepts involved. In any case, I never experienced anything like this before. If I was a Christian, I would say that I have been born again. +5. Other insights followed in rapid-fire fashion. I feel initiated into the mystery of the shaman's world, the world of true adulthood. Oh my God. Sunday, 7 p.m. My housemates return, much talking. They bring delicious pecan pie. I drink more orange juice and eat bananas. Sunday, 10 p.m. Call friends, assemble notes. More talking. Fractals, nature of reality, free will as true manifestation of consciousness and thus of God. Nature of the fall and dualism. Possible origins of the fall. We are all still eating the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. We ate it to understand God and get closer to him. As we continue to choose good over evil, we become more free, and as free will is God's manifestation in us, we bring more God into ourselves. Thus, we understand God by bringing him into us through will and love. God allowed us to fall because it would bring us closer to him through all our suffering. In the end, we would be with God because it was our choice. Monday, 2 a.m. Can't sleep, body hurts, fucking drug. Closed eye visuals, don't stop moving. Feel paranoid, hearing every noise, footstep, creaking of boards in the apartment. Images of SWAT teams and thuggish cops trashing my home, arresting me, and beating me up. Drug use is thought crime, and sadly, it could happen, but try not to think that while tripping. Monday, 4 a.m. Get off the phone with friend. Monday, 6 a.m. Housemate leaves for work. I fall asleep briefly. Monday, 10 a.m. I wake up. I feel tired, very, very tired. Psychedelia seems over. I'll have to think about all the crazy stuff that happened. Monday, Tuesday, etc. I wonder, was it all real? What did it all mean? I am tired, worn out, and still in my suffering. There is no magic pill to make the pain and boredom go away. I will choose to believe that this was a real peak experience, and like all peak experiences, it's like an iceberg. The greatest part of enlightenment is the work that goes into actually implementing the dream, walking the path that we saw briefly. I promised to myself to keep my chin up and keep walking my path with heart. So here we are back on DOI, this being the actual first reports of it being consumed alone. Let's talk about what DOI is anyways. To keep it brief, it's a psychedelic amphetamine. It is a substance that was synthesized by the infamous Sasha Shulgin, and it's been reported to last up to a day or even longer depending on the dose. And it sits along some others in the DOX family that we covered, like DOC or DOM. But as we see here, with an appropriate dose, from the stimulation and tripping for so long, it tends to feel overstayed, and often the user ends up getting tired of it. Respectively, if I was tripping, I wouldn't want to be going for a day straight, let alone it being as strong as it was for Rahkee. The experience was very profound and significant in the way he describes it. And looking over Rahkee's trip, we can tell a lot of the classical effects of stimulants and psychedelic effects were present. Obviously, he was in a very woke state. I imagine effects from the stimulation and the trip led to Rahkee helping his roommates with their argument. Then, of course, all the visuals that were being described, but even the narrative he told and all of the lessons suggest that it is very possible to have a really deep trip with this substance. I would imagine, though, that the physical state that it puts you in contributes significantly towards the cognitive effects and any morals or teachings that are derived. But let's compare this to some previous reports that include DOI, which we have two to bring up: How Not to Trip by Blizzard and Tons of Energy by Frank. Both of these reports have varying differences from this experience, but still have quite a bit of similarities. Starting with Blizzard, the main difference here is the amount of substances he did, which at 6 hours in, he did end up smoking some cannabis, and later on he included things like zopiclone and lorazepam. So because of that, we'll only compare the come up of both trips. Now, I would like to think they both ended up with a similar dose, or Rahkee wasn't too far behind, just because of the intensity of both seemed to be similar to each other. More so with Rahkee, but Blizzard did take 3.2 milligrams, which is a strong dose. We see that they came up almost identically, taking the blotter and sweeping through the come up, and waking up about 3 hours later to be tripping pretty hard. We can look to Frank's report and see that he and his friend both came up in about the same time as well, though I'd guess their trip was at a much lower dose. And seeing all three, the context and direction, the way the trip went, and what they thought about and how they reacted to it seemed to vary a lot. With Rahkee here, it seems there was a lot more thought going on, even to the point where there was undesirable things like the SWAT team breaking in, but we can partly blame this on a lack of sleep and being high for so long. But what's similar between all three trips is the apparent stimulation. It seems regardless that you're going to get amped up, and also what's similar, it seems to be a very colorful substance visually, especially with the reports of seeing closed-eye visuals. So it seems like with any trip though, there are tons of factors to consider that cause the way their trips to happen the way they did. But with that, I'm going to end it off there. If you guys want to see any more DOI or any DOX or anything, let me know in the comments below and we'll get to it. If you guys like the video, follow the socials, subscribe if you haven't already. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.